We're not going to get a second chance in the game.
Hello, my name is Paul Pitts. I'd like to start out by thanking Coach Alball for having me here today. This is a great honor and a pleasure to be here to speak and share a little bit about what I've learned over the years. Today I'm going to be speaking about using the I formation to enhance your veer and your midline. For the past 13 years I've been involved in college football and had a great opportunity to work for some outstanding coaches and learn from some great men. Most of my career has been involved in option football, and the guy that I probably credit to the most was Phil Jones, who was my head coach at Shorter University. He was actually a high school coach for about 30 years before he got involved in college football. And so I was able to learn from a unique perspective of somebody that had to deal with certain situations as far as athletes and people that they brought in. And he was involved in triple option football, and he had to, he had to work with the players that he had every year. And so he had to be he had to adjust a lot for what it is, the people that he had. And so during his time, he was a double slot guy, he was a I formation guy, and he even ran some split back veer. And so that's where my background comes from, and I've been able to take that now as an offensive coordinator and learned how to adapt that to the people that I have in my profession. And I've spent in small college football again, and so we don't have a lot of scholarships, and so we don't have the ability to bring in just a stable of people. And sometimes we have a certain type of athlete, and sometimes we may have a really fast guy at slot back or running back one year, and then the next year we may have some other plug guys. And so we've really been able to adapt our offense, and that's why the I formation for me has been successful. Now for me, when I start talking and we start building our offense, to me I think you take the triple option, you take formations, and you add motion. That creates a very simple defense. Teams they normally only have about a week to prepare for you because you don't have a whole lot of triple option teams. And so when you start adding in a lot of formations where you have to add extra gaps or you have extra blockers that are able to attack certain run fits, teams have to really simplify what it is that they do. One issue that I've had whenever I was involved in offenses or triple option offenses where we were just double slot and we didn't have a lot of formations, what I found is teams in the first half would really struggle with us because we really valued playing faster than what people were able to practice during the week. And so as you go through the first half of the game, man, you're able to get after those guys they're trying to get adjusted to, but by the second half, they're able to start timing up your slot backs, they're able to start timing up some of your formations, and some of the schemes that you're running because they go into practice and they may not have worked on it before this week, but they're able to spend all week long attacking certain run fits in certain areas to stop your offense. Well, what I've discovered is by adding in multiple formations, now teams have to spend more time getting lined up than they do just running the triple option. They go to team period and they can't just run the veer and run the belly. They have to figure out how are you going to align to the I formation? How are you going to align whenever a slot back comes in motion and sets up on the other side of the formation? So it takes away a lot of that drill work that teams have for their prep. Now for us, offensively, what you have to do is make sure what you're doing is very simple. I am a veer, midline, belly, rocket guy. We might line up in the I formation one time and then line up in the slot the next, but we're still going to run those four plays. And we try to simplify our offense so that our guys are able to catch on to it. And so we'll talk a little bit about how we keep it simple and communicate. Now for me, the I formation, maybe the most important reason that I like the I is that it allows me to get my best running back the ball. There's been seasons or times whenever I have a certain slot back, I would love to get the ball too. Well, defenses are able to formation away from him to keep him from getting the ball in the places we want him to. Well, by using the I, it allows me to put my best back in the I formation and motion a better blocker to a spot to where we now have the advantage to run our triple option or to run our belly or run some of our other plays. Now for us, our base alignment doesn't change a whole. It's pretty typical of most triple option teams, I believe, but our offensive line, we're 3-foot splits. We try to keep our offensive line backed up off the ball as much as we can. Our offensive line, their helmets are at the bottom of the center's numbers. Our B-back, we actually put his hand down at 2 yards behind the heels of the quarterback. Now, why is it we base it on the heels of the quarterback rather than the ball? There's been times when I've had a center that maybe is 6'1", and a backup center that's 5'10" or 5'9". Well, when there's a big difference in the height, now that makes the difference between the fullback and the quarterback different as well. And so by basing it off the heels of the quarterback, that 2-yard difference or distance never changes. And so you're really able to stay consistent in your meshes when you run your midline and all your other plays. Now the biggest adjustment is when we go to an I formation situation, we put our tailback, he is going to be 2 yards behind the heels of the B-back. Now we run 4 formations, essentially, and we'll use some tags to get into some different stuff, but essentially we're going to run our base formations of ace, which is just the spread formation for most triple teams. We'll use what we call right and left. That's just if we call right formation, we put a tight end in the game and take a wide receiver out. We have our unbalanced set. I'm not going to talk too much unbalanced today. Simply, that's a whole different can of worms and maybe changes up a couple of different things for you. And then our last base formation is going to be twins right, twins left, and that's going to be our I formation out of our ace personnel. And you can see here, you can see our ace formation. Our right, obviously, if we go left, we put the tight end to the left. And then our east and west is unbalanced. We go tackle over and put the tight end away from the formation. And then we'll use twins left and twins right, and the twins left, twins right just dictates where the slot back goes. So how is it we're able to use those base formations and base alignments to get into the I? We talked about it earlier. We want to keep everything simple, and we want to be able to communicate with our kids to move them and not overload them. And so we just have 4 tags. We'll use our reduce, our flex, our dot, and our wing. Now reduce and flex, that communicates to the wide receiver. So if we call ace reduce, that brings the wide receivers in tight. If we were to call flex right or flex left, flex right brings the right wide receiver in. But that doesn't affect our running backs at all. So if they hear reduce, that's just verbiage that they don't have to worry about. The only thing that affects them is dot and wing, and that is how we get into our I formation. And we'll base that typically off of right. And so if we call right dot, what that tells us is we want to bring our weak A back into the I formation. If we were to call wing, that means we want to bring our strong A back into the I formation. And you can see how that communicates here and how it is that we would end up lined up there. Now, you may have somebody in particular like me that you want to be your I tailback, and we coach them that. We tell the player, you're our I, so it doesn't really matter if you're going to be on the right or the left. If you hear dot or you hear wing, you go to the I, and we know who our blocker is going to the slot. And this is how we would adjust it to our east and west formation so that we're able to stay in the I formation when we go to our unbalanced set. And this is just how you may see how we do our ace reduce and our flex right and our flex left. Now, how is it that motion plays into it, and how is it that motion helps us? Well, when we start game planning and we start watching film, we start asking ourselves, how is the defense going to line up? And that's always our first question as we start, get into the game. Are they going to be a balanced team? Are they going to try and stay 5-5 on each side, or are they going to unbalance? Are they going to try and play a 6-5 ratio to our strength? And then as we motion, how are they going to adjust? And there's, you just have to see how it is that they may adjust with. Are they going to try and bump their safeties with motion to get balanced back up? Are they going to try and move their linebackers? If they got 2 G backers, are they going to try and bump them to more of a true Mike and a stack? Or are they going to try and move their defensive line? And so when we go into the game, that's always one of the first things we do is try to throw some of our formations at them and throw the motions to see how they may adjust to any of those motions and formations, and then maybe start seeing how we can take advantage and how we can outnumber them. And always remember this, in my mind, anytime the defense moves, you win. You know, I like to see when you face teams that you motion and they start moving 3 people to adjust to your one guy, I think you win offensively because it's going to affect their run fits, it's going to affect who has option responsibility, how they attack option responsibility, and a lot of times it's just going to loosen the alignment of the defense. If you can get those guys going east and west and you going north, you're going to win and you're going to be able to rack up a whole lot of yards, hopefully. And, you know, as we watch some of the film today, we're going to talk about our inside veer, we're going to talk about our belly G, and we're going to talk about our midline. And as we watch the film, I just want you to kind of pay attention. These are the things that we're looking at is how the defense gets outnumbered when you start motion into certain places, what the defense is doing with their D-line stunts. It's really hard for a slanting defense to slant against us, because they may want to say we're a formation slant team, but you motion and you change your strength really fast. How is it that they communicate those slants to get the right slant on that they want? It's really hard to do. And then, you know, how are they going to try and move their defensive line? If you get a team that maybe tries to play an even front and they got a 3 and a 1, and you motion and they try to move their one technique to a 3, I think you got a good chance of being successful, because that one technique is not used to playing a 3 and getting double teamed. And for option guys, what our motion, a big thing that our motion has done is it has eliminated what I call easy stunts. Easy stunts are when we get number 1 and 2 hard off the edge, trying to force a quick pitch. This has really eliminated it so that we've been able to get our quarterback involved back in the game. You know, and you could see just some of our tags. We'll talk about rip and Liz, row and low. Rip and Liz is our long motion. Row and low is going to be our settle motion when we bring those guys across. Now, when it comes to the veer, there's a couple of mechanics that I think are really crucial. For me philosophically, I believe that the ball carrier needs to get his shoulder pads squared to the line of scrimmage as fast as he can. And so everything we coach is dictated by squaring your shoulder pads and getting downhill. And that's our fullback, our quarterback, A-backs, and our pitch guys. So when we start coaching our quarterback, just for technique-wise, philosophically, as that quarterback comes off the mesh, I want him to push and get a little bit of depth off of that mesh and then square his shoulder pads up and replace the 5 technique. I'm not a guy that really likes to string it out to number 2, trying to force a pitch or trying to get width, because to me and the quarterbacks that I've had, a lot of times has created lost yardage situations. And so I believe that if you get your quarterback shoulder pads squared and replacing that 5 technique, we gain 5. You know, we gain 5 every time we do that, just because you know, the defense, they have to come down so hard to take number 2. And what's going to be one of the most crucial things when it comes to our I formation presentation today is that I tailback. And that's the most questions that I receive when people ask, well, how does it affect your pitch? Well, our tailback has actually, it's been an easier transition in teaching your running back and your quarterback by putting that guy in the I formation, because timing is just a little bit easier and able to get the guy downhill. But technique-wise, what we want to do is I want to open up my hips. I tailback, open up my hips 3 steps flat. And then after my 3rd step, I'm wanting to get downhill in pitch relationship with the quarterback. And so it's really important to stay flat initially so that you can let everything happen in front of you, and that puts you in a good pitch relationship. If you just go running straight downhill, then you're going to get too tight to the quarterback. If you run out there 4, 5, 6 steps, now you're going to be too far away. So we found that 3 flat steps and then downhill almost 45 to stay in relationship with that quarterback. Now we're going to talk here. We're going to start out with our veer formation, our veer from the I formation, and we're going to be doing it from our twins. What is it that I like about twins? One, I think that it stays balanced. You may look at it and say that you don't have the ability to run option one way as effectively, but I don't believe that because of our motions and some of our other stuff. And I think we'll see that as we go. But to me, what I like about twins I formation is that one is ensures you get the ball to your best player. The Veer rules don't change, and that's what I love about it. And what we've been able to do is our Veer rules never change for our slot backs, quarterbacks, anything like that. Now, if you have a certain defense, or if you have a certain, mainly it's against a even front, but if you have a defense that wants to set you a certain way, putting a 3 technique to one side, maybe even just putting their best player to one side, starting to line up in twins will really help you to dictate where people align. They're going to play to that strength, and then you're able to move it from there. And these are some of the things that you're going to want to look at. Again, here's our twins formation. This would just be twins right for us. We're not going to talk a lot about offensive line play. This is going to be more skill guy stuff. Man, I'd love to talk to you about offensive line play. I've been an offensive line coach almost my entire career, so that could definitely be the next time. But today we're going to focus on our perimeter stuff here. And so you can just see how our pitch relationship works. Now we're going to talk about our twins formation here, and we're going to be able to see it. This would be twins right, and we're starting out against a 50 defense. And we're just using our typical loop scheme that most people would run against a 50 defense here. And so we're able to get a handoff read. And so just kind of be able to notice how we're able to maintain our pitch relationship between our quarterback and our tailback and our slot back. And that's what's going to be really crucial for us. Now, we're still, even in this formation, we're going to still arc read. And our slot back, when we block the perimeter, our slot back is actually reading the corner. And he plays his way out of it to where if the slot back or if the corner comes, then the slot back will take him and our wide receiver will go to the safety. And vice versa. If the safety comes, then our slot back would take him. So this is against a 4-3 defense, and we just line up in twins. And again, notice it. This would be no different than somebody lining up in ace and a flex bone situation here. And so we're able to get a balanced defense by lining up in our twins formation. Okay, and we're able to still arc read out here on the perimeter, able to still read the stack. Now, one thing that I'd like you to see, and it's crucial, it's what we all have to pay attention to as option coaches, is being able to maintain that triangle between your quarterback and your pitchback. And so when we talk about that triangle, we're obviously talking about our quarterback, our slot back here blocking, and our tailback. And that's going to be crucial to you as we go. Now, how is it that we're able to get that? Well, it's going to be really crucial for that slot back, again, or that tailback, to try and stay flat for those first initial 3 steps and then get into downhill pitch relationship with your quarterback. Okay, so again, our twins formation here, it's a 4-3, and this is a common theme that you see when you run multiple formations. And what we talked about earlier is defenses really start to mess up their run fits. And this is a really well-coached team. They do a great job, but they're playing a 4-3 here. They tried to do some different things of messing up or changing up their stack read as far as number 1 and number 2, and they try and do what I call 3-2 exchange, where the linebacker runs to pitch and the safety comes down for quarterback. But once you start having to account for that out of several different formations, it really can start affecting your run fits. And I think you see this here, not necessarily how we drew it up, but the slot back does a good job of adjusting and picking up the number 2 as he widens here. And now this is one thing that has been very beneficial to us as well, is we're able to run our Veer into the boundary a lot more effectively because we're able to get that ball downhill a lot faster than we were whenever we ran it out of our double slot offense. What you see here is, as you watch this backside safety, without having motion coming across, without having an indicator, then that backside safety here isn't able to get across the formation as quickly to become a pursuit player. And so now you see we're able to get a couple of blocks on the perimeter, and we got a lot more space than we would had we brought some motion in there and brought some backside pursuit to us. You know, and anytime that you run, for us, when we go against a stack read, we try to read the DN, and that's that linebacker, the first man, head up to outside of number one, and we try to veer release our tackle to the Mike linebacker. Okay, so again, same formation here and really the same look. And one thing that is really difficult is when you take safeties and they're standing flat-footed and the play comes at them, they have to adjust to regain leverage. And so if you get safeties who are going to line up and try and be run support box players, and then you're able to pitch the ball, you can notice how this front side safety here, the angle that he has to take. Well, now notice the backside safety here, how far he has to come to try and to get into a pursuit angle. So even though we're packing people in with our formation and our I formation, we're really able to spread the defense out pretty quickly post-snap, just because people aren't able to get any kind of pre-snap judgment or pre-snap movement on us. Okay, now this is one where I wanted to show us, just because this is really important to maintain good pitch relationship for your tailback and your quarterback. And one thing that we really harp on that I should have said earlier is when you have that tailback, you want to get him to pause just for a split second before he gets out there into his pitch motion. And so what we tell him to do is, in your stance, when that ball is snapped, we just want you to curl your toes. Just real quick, curl your toes before you come out here flat. And what that does is it allows the other parts of the option process to get started so that you don't get out here too wide. And now you'll notice here where our slot back or our tailback here, he doesn't give a pause. And then notice how he keeps running out here real wide. Okay? And so because he doesn't give that pause, now our quarterback, he gets out there too far in front of our quarterback, and we don't have a great pitch. Okay? And so really push those guys to give a slight pause before they get into their pitch motion, or else they got a chance at getting out there too wide and creating a bad pitch. Now, you know, he does get this pitch, and because he's got his shoulder pads square, and this is what's really good here, is he maybe gets out a little too fast, but look at his hips and his shoulder pads. You know, that's a situation we were not able to get to from our double slot. And so we weren't able to get guys that had square shoulder pads and squared hips to the line of scrimmage by having them go lateral. And so by doing this, this guy's able to catch the ball and turn and go downhill right now. And so if you don't have a slot back or you don't have a running back who is very fast and you don't think he can really outrun people to the perimeter, man, I'd encourage you to try a little bit of eye with him, because it makes him that much faster, because he's able to out-leverage the defense so quickly. Okay, and so this is another situation of just kind of noticing how formations can affect the defense, okay, and how it messes up our run responsibilities. This was a team that was a 4-3 stack team, and then they came in and we had some success running against them in the first half, and they tried to go to a 4-4. Well, when you start doing that, then people start messing up their option responsibilities. A 4-4 defense is different than a 4-3, obviously, and so you know, you could see 52 here. He had been lined up at stack backer earlier in the game. It was a certain, he was lined up on the tackle. He was taking quarterback a certain way. Well, they made the adjustment, tried to put him as a G guard. Well, that's a different, you have to scrape the back or quarterback way differently when you do that. Well, you know, he's not able to scrape. They miss out their quarterback player, and we're able to gain big yardage there. So what's great about this is by getting into these different formations, defenses start trying to change to adjust to you, and you're able to create some big yardage. Now you're going to see here how we start using our motion. This is going to be row and low, and this we may call row or low, and that is a settle motion. We bring a guy across the formation and settle him down onto the tackle. So for us, this formation, how we may call it, would be twins left, row 34. Okay, twins left, row 34. Well, that's a simple way for our guys to know the formation and the motion. Now, how is this beneficial to us? We're going to see it from the end zone, but this is a 4-4 team. They were playing their 3 technique, who's a pretty good player, and a defensive end of that side were both good players. And so what we wanted to do was set the formation to the boundary, motion our guy across to the weaker side of what we felt was the weaker side of their 4-4 defense, and run our triple option. And so we line up here. We're able to force the defense to put a 3 technique and their better defensive end to the boundary and create more space to the field. Okay, with very little adjustment except for maybe the free safety who's adjusting, but we don't. That's not as a huge concern for us. And so now we're able to motion across, and we're able to get into our load scheme. Okay, and so if you want to run load scheme, row and low is your best bet. If you end up in an arc scheme, we got another Ripper Liz that'll put you into a great arc scheme here. Okay, but we're able to load the 4-4. We get a scrape. The slot back here, really would like him to stay tight here to that defensive end, but the linebacker scrapes a little bit wide as we see here. The linebacker is going to scrape wide. Slot back does a good job of adjusting to it and just pinning him out. Quarterback, this is where we like to get downhill. This kid runs pretty good, but he's not a speedster. But by replacing that 5 technique off of option, he's able to gain big yardage because people start overrunning and missing their run fits. So that's just the benefit of being able to get downhill and replacing the 5 technique. Now, what is it that another great thing about running Veer from this set is, maybe you don't have a lot of great skill guys, or maybe you got a lot of injuries, and you're trying to game plan, and you're missing out on some people you're counting on. Well, this was a year where we had a bunch of injuries. We were actually able to move 88 here. He was a tight end. He was a true freshman, and he was a tight end at the beginning of the year. Well, we got late into the season and had a lot of injuries. We were able to put him at slot back, use him as a blocker while still being able to keep our best player at tailback and pitch it to him. Had we been just double slot, there were going to be times where we would have had to check the ball and create him to be the pitch man. Well, I know nobody wants to put a tailback, or a tight end, as their pitch back on Veer. And so we got in here and we were able to use him to motion and put him into a good spot to get us a block. So by being able to get in the eye, being able to use one guy as your motion and as your blocker, you're able to use multiple personnel and still be able to be effective. Okay, so now we incorporate our Ripper Liz. Ripper Liz is going to be a fast motion across the formation, and we typically use it with our arc scheme stuff. This is a great way to start motioning guys across, and a lot of times the defense may even start bumping a lot more just because there's a threat if you have any kind of jet sweep or any other kind of quick motion out there, but you're getting 2 receivers to one side in a hurry, which a lot of times creates a lot more defensive adjustments here. And so just want you to see here how we're able to use our Liz formation. They start out and they're really in a 4-4 look against us, but we bring them across. We know that we're getting an easy stunt, 1-2 hard off the edge, so we know we're able to out-leverage them. And this is how we're able to get the ball out there on the perimeter. And here, this is the big coaching point because the slot back does a great job coming across. Here's the biggest coaching point when it comes to Ripper Liz motion is that slot back has got to stay flat. He's got to stay flat and maintain outside leverage on the corner. Okay, and so what we talk a lot about is chase the outside number of that corner, and that's going to put you in a position to be able to, if the guy wants to come up hard and give you a quick corner edge, you're able to get a good log on him. If the guy wants to come up field, you're able, if you chase that outside number, to keep him widening out. And a lot of times, and we'll see this in some of our later film, a lot of times with this slot back, as he comes across in motion, what he's going to want to do is he wants to try and cheat up and get up into the line of scrimmage. Anytime that happens, you got issues, okay? And so really keep pushing those guys. Stay flat until you gain outside leverage on that corner. And this is, again, just defensively, it's hard. Anytime you start bringing that motion across and inside releasing, if you have any kind of belly or ISO game, it's hard for those inside backers to maintain eye discipline. And one last way out of our twins formation is that we're able to run our option, is we're able to just, in this case, split it out. So we may call twins left, split, and widen our slot back out into the slot position as a wide receiver. And what that does is it just stretches the defense. And so, again, it's a simple way. It doesn't affect our offense very much, but it really affected their defense by splitting the slot back out into the slot because it spread the defense out and messed up some of their option responsibilities. You can see number 51 down here. They were an easy stunt team, and those guys were just coming and crushing our quarterbacks up under the chin. And I really didn't want to run Veer and get that guy to take one under the chin. And so we just spread the guy out, took away that outside backer from being able to come downhill, and we're able to get a pitch out there and get the ball into the perimeter. And so that's just another simple and effective way to use your formations to affect the defense and create an advantageous look for you. Now we're going to talk about our tight end formations. And so how is it we're able to use our tight end in our I option offense? And one thing that I love about the tight end, I'm a big belly G guy. Anybody that knows me is the first thing I'm going to figure out is how to run Veer. Next is going to be belly G. And I like it out of a tight end, so it's got to be important to us. And so what I like about the tight end is that it forces the defense to spread their defensive front. It may not spread their secondary quite as much, but now it makes those guys have to account for an extra gap. You're able to also dictate what front they may give you. If they're an over front, if they're an under front, they're going to have to decide how they want to play that tight end, and each one's going to open up something a little bit more. If they're giving you an under front with 159 to the tight end, it takes away a pursuit player. If they're wanting to give you an over front and they're wanting to give you a 3 and a 6 or 7 or 9, it just creates a wider C gap for the defense to have to defend. And it allows you to get an extra blocker for any of your box runs. So this would be right dot, this would be right wing for us. Simple adjustments to get some good stuff. So this was how, again, our skill guys, how we would run our Veer to the tight end. We're going to see that here. So we're going to run it, go left dot, and we're going to run 35. That would be our inside Veer to the left. And so what you're able to see here is that we just get a base 3-4 defense. Okay, we're going to outside release our tight end, and we're going to out and still arc our corner. The rules don't change for those guys. Our slot back still has run support. Okay, he still has run support. Our tight end still has the deep third guy just like a wide receiver would. Now, here's a big coaching point for us, and it's really hard with certain guys to try and get those guys to stay patient on their arc release. It's really difficult for our slot back to see this corner where he's so tight, and he just wants to get out there so fast to get to that edge that he just runs out there. Well, as you're going to see here is if he doesn't have his patience to take his arc read steps, now he gets out there too far and too wide where he's not in a good spot to block this corner. And so what we really preach hard for with our slot back is he's got to be patient and just open up flat with his first 3 steps. The slot back and the tailback, first 3 steps should be very similar, whether they're arc blocking to the run support or whether they're the pitch guy in the eye. Should be very similar, a flat, slow 3 steps to let everything start developing out in front of you. Okay, so we get our zone concept here, and we get a pitch for us downhill. And you can kind of see with the corner how, if it's a reduced look, you can see him as he widens out. Normally, if you put a wide receiver in the game and you go reduce, that guy knows he's a run support defender, and he comes up hard and collisions your slot back. Well, by putting the tight end in the game, now he's got a lot more worry about folding inside for belly or midline, some other things. And so by getting in this look, it allows us to get a softer edge from the corner most of the time. Of course, this time you're going to see corner does a great job of he sticks his foot in the ground and he comes and meets us across the line of scrimmage. Okay, and so that's why, but we're still in a decent position simply because of our eye tailback. Okay, and so this is again a look where for us we would run veer from ace and reduce it, and we'd get a corner setting the edge hard. And so our slot backs would be coming across flat, and we'd pitch the ball out there to them. Well, they're still here. They're still going sideways as they get that ball, and they see that edge got set. Well, they're having to redirect their whole body to get upfield. Well, by putting your guy in the eye, he's able to go flat 3 steps, but he's able to get his shoulder pads squared up to the line a lot faster. And so when you get those edges set, he's able to see whether I need to bounce it or whether I need to stick it up inside of the edge that's being set a lot easier. And so, we don't get a pitch here, but that guy is able to get his eyes on the block a lot easier, and his body is in a better position to get upfield and gain yardage rather than getting stuck. I know you've all seen it where you get stuck right on that block because you can't redirect your body fast enough. Again, how we're able to use the eye to take advantage of that. So this would be our right wing look. And again, one thing that is good about it is just kind of noticing here of see the 2 linebackers here. They're having to adjust based on the formations. They're having to move around. Again, that messes up how people are able to play the option. Whether a guy is how it is that they're scraping for quarterback. And so again, that's a situation where I think we win because you could see number 2 doesn't know how to come off the stack to take quarterback effectively. And that's just people trying to move them around to get best, trying to put them in the right place. And sometimes it just gets overthought. Also, the one thing too is that by putting in the tight end here, notice this safety back here. Okay, now look at how far it is that he has to come out here to be effective in there. And so the tight end allows us to spread out that secondary, and he normally cheats up into the box. And again, that just moves him out of the way for us as we come down and run our triple. It keeps him out of pursuit angles. So with our, again, just as you see, one benefit to not having to run motion with your option is it's really going to soften the edges for you. And so you see this safety right here who's a run support guy. Well, without having that pre-snap motion, he doesn't have the ability to get a run and start. And so he's going to have to make a decision right here. If he wants to set the edge, he's either going to have to run really, really hard upfield this way to try and funnel it in, which, if you don't do it quick enough, then you get reached. Okay, or he's going to have to sprint out this way and take a severe angle to regain his pitch alignment, and that opens up the inside and spreads out the defense a whole lot and just isn't as effective as setting the edge. And so that's a decision that they have to make. But then here's the other thing too is we start out on the left hash, and when we pitch the ball and we catch the ball, we're out here on the right hash. Okay, so you see we're on the right hash at a dead sprint, and now you can see the defense and how they're all behind us. And so again, that is just why I felt that the eye was so beneficial, because we were able to get that ball spread out there so fast and so far away from the defense that they weren't able to recover. And so again, take advantage. If you don't have that guy that's a 10.6 or 10.5 100-meter guy, it allows him to play a lot faster than what he may time if he were to run a track meet. Okay, and this is just a great job wanted us to see of the quarterback. You hear me talk about reading the stack and attacking 1 and 2 here. This is where I think for us the quarterback replacing the 5 technique is beneficial because it allows us to eliminate the other people. Quarterback does a great job getting off the mesh, squaring his shoulder pads up, replacing the 5 technique. He's able to attack number 2 right here. Attack number 2 and get a pitch. And again, pitching the ball into the boundary, and we're able to gain some big yardage simply because we don't have backside pursuit coming from the safety in an effective manner. Number 17 here can't get across the formation, and so we're able to get out there and go. So how is it that we get into our tight end formations and now we start bringing our motion, and what's good about that? Okay, this is going to be our rip formation, and a lot of times we see a lot of 4-3 stuff, and so we use our rip formation or rip motion look. And now notice what starts happening to the defense and how motion affects the defense is now they're trying to bump backers, they're trying to slant some stuff, and they do, and now people start missing their run fits. Okay, so people, when you motion out of this look is different from the double slot simply because you have a power run threat. We can motion this guy across the formation and get into an ISO or a belly scheme or maybe a power scheme, and we're able to overload because we have a fullback and a tailback and sometimes a pulling guard. And so defenses have to adjust to try and get an extra hat to the ball, whereas you don't necessarily have that inside downhill threat for us when we go double slot. And so we get a lot more guys that are trying to bump backers and trying to get into the right spot to get an extra hat to the ball. When they do, now they start missing the run fit and we're able to hand the ball. Now, one thing that, a big question that I get is how to work a 4-3 stack, okay? And that is always an issue of how are you going to read it as a stack, where are your eyes at, how are you going to attack it? Well, and then they can take number 2 here, this stack backer. He may be a quarterback player, and he may be a dive player. And so how is it that you're going to read those 2 guys at the same time? Well, motion was a great thing for us because what it did is it actually broke the stack. And so you're going to see here as we bring this slot back across the formation, now you don't want to get out leveraged. So watch number 2 here, how he starts winding out, and now you're not able to play with a hip backer. You're not able to play with a linebacker that can play dive and be a box run fit guy simply because he can't get out leveraged and allow the ball to get pitched or 2 vertical receivers out there. And so motion was a way to break the stack for us and make it an easier read for our quarterback. Actually got our quarterback some runs in the game to where he was able to get downhill where number 2 maybe overplayed it. But then it also just slowed it down for our tailback and allowed us to get a little bit wider pitch. Now again, anytime we go rip or Liz motion, we're going to make that an automatic crack arc for us on the perimeter with our slot back and our wide receiver. Okay, so we ought to have the wide receiver coming down here to the safety. And they try and do a little 3-2 exchange. They do a little 3-2 exchange right here. If that's happening, just shorten that wide receiver split. The slot back does a pretty good job. See how he stays out here? Turns up a little bit too soon, I think, but he does a pretty good job of continuing across the formation and maintaining outside leverage. Okay, now cut, you be sure when you do any kind of cut, be sure to step on the toes of the guy you're cutting and keep running through that. Don't dive too soon. Okay, but just another way we're able to use that and how we're able to get the ball pitched out there with very little pursuit. So you could see here the difference as our slot back comes across. Get it timed up here. Notice here one thing, our wide receiver made the adjustment. They were trying to bring that safety down there. We shorten up our splits to put us in a good spot. Okay, but notice the difference in the slot back as he comes across the formation right here. Notice how he gets up into the line of scrimmage right there. If he gets up into the line of scrimmage, then you're going to have issues. And you can see how the corner is able to set the edge a little bit tighter than he would have previously, simply because we got up in the line of got upfield too soon. Now look at the distance. Look how far we are away from our tailback and from our slot back making his block. Those guys are able to get off of their block. They're able to leverage you back inside and take you back to pursuit. Whereas if he would have just continued flat out here until he got outside number and did what? Chase the outside number. Chase the outside number of that corner. Now that's going to force the corner to stay out here wide on to the boundary and give us more running room here. Okay, and part of this too is with our tailback, as we coach up this part here, is notice how the tailback, he comes out here too wide. This was a guy who he played fullback. He was our B-back, and we would run the triple with him, but then we'd also put him at the I tailback. We had to get him the ball by any means possible. And so we put him back there early on in the season. He had a tendency to keep running out here flat, and notice what happens. Okay, see how he keeps running out here too flat? If I get it here. He keeps running out here too flat without ever getting downhill with the quarterback. Okay, and now you see the distance that they have. And if you get too big of a distance, now you see how he's having to catch up to that ball. You know, how many times have you seen that ball pitched out there and it hits off of their fingertips? Well, if he takes his 3 steps, eyes on the quarterback, and gets downhill with him, now he's able to run through there without having to reach out there so far to get the ball. Okay, so really harp on those guys at tailback. Stay flat 3 steps, but get downhill after that. So this is a situation, again, just kind of want to show a couple of different looks and different things that we've experienced over the years. Notice here this is a 3-4 defense, okay? And this safety now is a box player. Well, why is he a box player? Goes back to that belly G. You know, we're able to get into a really run-heavy formation here, force the defense to misalign and really overplay the belly and quickly get this slot back out onto the perimeter. By going Liz motion and putting him out there. Now, the safety to try and recover is having to run flat. And I can tell you, if you know this team at all, their safeties are downhill guys that when we were in ace formation and we were arcing and we were motioning to get there, they were meeting us at the line of scrimmage and really giving us some issues. And so by getting into the I formation, what it did is it backed up those safeties and didn't give that run and start. We were able to start playing on their side of the line of scrimmage on the perimeter rather than having to take those guys on our side. Now, one thing here that we have is notice the wide receiver probably needs to cheat that split in. I think he maybe lost his mind as he came out of the huddle probably and got way too wide, but he tries to adjust to it. And slot back sees he's wide and tries to adjust, and we get 2 on the safety. I really want that slot back to stay out there working out to that corner. Okay, but again, just want you to see multiple formations. These are looks that we didn't necessarily get when we just lined up in ace and ace right and right. You know, we didn't, when we just stayed in 2 slot back personnel, we didn't get some of these same issues. Okay, another example here of a 4-man front, trying to overplay your formation and how you're able to out-leverage defenses in a hurry. They actually, in this case, don't have a quarterback player. Okay, and so we're able to pull it off of the 5 technique here, and we're able to get downhill because they're trying to play their linebackers to our tight end, give a run-heavy set, and now get the ball to the perimeter to the weak side. Okay, great example here of the quarterback, and this is why I just wanted to show it, is notice how he tries to get downhill so fast. The defensive end 5 technique is lined up about right here, 1.5 yards outside the hash, and our quarterback's able to replace him and able to get a lot more yardage than he maybe would have had he tried to string it out. So just again, want to show some effectiveness, how we're able to run it out of different looks against different defenses. Never affects our offensive line play and doesn't change our rules for the slot back out here. So you've seen our Rip and Liz formation, or Rip and Liz motion, and how we're able to get on the perimeter. Now this is how we're able to use our tight end, and run our row and low, and we're able to get into our load scheme. We just line up in right dot. We're able to motion across. They're playing a 4-4 balanced look, and so we're able to motion our guy across here and run our load scheme. So this would be right dot low, 35. Okay, and so it's just another easy way that we're able to put our guys into the good situation to run our offense. Don't necessarily want to run Veer to this look because of the angles that they have with the 3 technique and with some of their people. And so we're able to get into a good spot, double the 1, get up to the inside backer, and get our slot back into a safety, moving us into an advantageous position. Now, and this is another thing that you'll start to see is if they're trying to play any kind of secondary stuff, if they're trying to play games, you're able to key off or give some hints about what's going to happen. Notice this team here, they did a great job of bringing some corner stunts and trying to take on our guys early on in the game. And so anytime we would go rip or Liz formation, they would start rolling that safety and bringing the corner and setting the edge. Well, now we're able to bring our slot back across, settle him down. They key it off. We know, hey, who's going to be run support? We know. They've tipped it because they thought that we were going to be running fast motion across the formation. Then we get settled down. Now they have to adjust to our normal stuff, and we're able to still be effective out here on the perimeter. And this is just how, you just want to put this as an example of how we're able to easily communicate with our guys even from the sideline. This is, we actually broke the formation and we were in, broke the huddle and we were in the wrong formation. And so, you know, we saw that from up top, but we knew that with this unbalanced look, we could get back to a good veer spot by motioning them across. So you just kind of see here, we're able to communicate it. You know, they're a little bit confused, I think, because, you know, we don't typically do that, but you know, we're able to do that, put us in a good spot, and they're still able to operate. It's not any different than something we may have been lined up in at a previous time. So because our system is tailored towards certain positions where only things apply to them, we're able to communicate it easily and effectively. And so, you know, there are times where we maybe have some verbiage in there, and sometimes our play calls may end up being 4 or 5 words. But our guys, what they wanted is said, Coach, hey, just tell me what to do. You know, they didn't want to just sit there and run plays and have everything built in. So they like having those tags on and getting into the right spot. Now, you've seen us run the veer, and you've heard me talk about our belly and how much we like it. So I just want to talk about that and how it helps us in our veer offense. Our belly G, we're able to run it from right formation where we just hand it to the fullback. We're able to get in the I, hand it to our tailback, and hand it to our B-back, either one. And so just based on different tags. And what I like about the belly is it creates great blocking angles at the line of scrimmage. For as much, if you run a ton of veer, that defensive end so many times has to squeeze the tackle down to take dive that it makes it really easy for the tight end. You know, sometimes if you're just a straight wing T team, you got to have a stud tight end to be able to block that defensive end down. Well, you know, we've had some good tight ends, but we've never had a stud that could just man block somebody. But by influencing that D end, because the down block from the tackle looks very similar to the veer release, you're able to use his momentum to take him down and create that edge. And so you're able to use his momentum against him. Now, if they try to overload one side of the formation to stop your belly, then that opens up your veer away. So you can see our rules are just like everybody else were. Our tackle and tight end, their gap down back, or our guard is going to take a drop step. He's getting into the line of scrimmage. What's really big for him is making sure he wants to me, I want him to stay square as possible so they can get back in the line, drop step outside foot, second step's up in the line of scrimmage and try and scrape your inside or your inside shoulder on the hip of that tight end so you can get up in the line of scrimmage and make an effective kick out. You know, one thing I say is try to run the tight end over. If you're that guard, try to run over the tight end. We'll put another tight end in the game if he doesn't get out of the way in time. Now the A-back, to get to that back, he's got to be sure to scrape the butt of that outside man, that in man on the line of scrimmage, and flatten out as soon as he clears so that he's able to get the inside backer. And then our B-back, we talk about strike a match on the tight end's hip. He wants to hug that tight end as much as he can. So you can see here, we just lined up in left dot in this situation, and we first couple of times we're just going to hand it to our B-back here. We're able to run it just like any other wing T team. Now, I'll say we're not a wing T offense. You know, belly G is a great play for us, but it's we run it a little bit differently simply because our splits are so wide. So our B-back is going to hit that thing a little bit wider and have a little bit of a different angle. You know, we cross over or we take a width step, cross over, and then try to get downhill off of that, and that puts us into a good spot to be able to hug that tight end's hip. So if we get a 50, we're going to try and use a double team concept on that defensive end. He steps out here, but we get the inside block, and we just are able to hand it off. So just kind of wanted to, first couple of times show you how we're able to use our belly, and just like any other team would with our fullback, and then how we're able to change it later on. Okay, and so here, if we get a good wash from the tight end, we're able to get a kick out from this guard, and we're able to hand it off and get up onto the safety. Okay, now, this is when we start handing it to our tailback. Why is it that you hand it to your tailback on the belly G? What we found is that we were running it so much the safety became a box player. And so we never had somebody to account for that safety as he came down into the box for the fullback. Well, we may get 4, 5, maybe 6 yards, but I just got tired of seeing the safety make the block. And so we said, man, our best running back is at tailback. We don't have anybody to block the safety. Let's hand it to our tailback. And so we went in and we started running it from the I formation. Again, nothing changes up front. All of our rules stay the same. The only difference now is the quarterback, rather than reversing out, will front out most of the time and just hand the ball off to our tailback. Our fullback is still taking the same angles. His rule is you have the safety. Our tailback, he's going to take a stretch step, and then he is downhill right now, still trying to, he now will move and run through the inside leg of that tackle to maintain a good belly angle. So I want you to see this here and how it's able to play into our veer look. Okay, teams are having to play this against a 50 look here. They're having to keep people back to be able to play veer to the short side or to the split inside. And so we lose the safety. The safety's out of the play, and so we're able to run our belly G and take advantage of not having that safety in this look here. Now, what I want us to see here, I want to coach up this defensive end, as you're going to see here, does a great job of whipping us. For me, when I run belly against a 50, what I teach that tackle is I want to double team with that tight end, but I want to double team his inside half. I don't want to just come straight off and try and base him up, because if you get a defense that is a penetrating defense a lot of times, or a DN that's really good, you try to base up with a veer tackle, that's not a game you win a ton. And so what I do is say step with that inside foot and work the inside half of that defensive end. And what it does is it influences him down. So now the tight end's able to come down and clean it up with a good wash. Okay, here we come off too vertical on the guy and get stood up. Tight end does a good job of washing it, but we could have been more effective had we been working inside. And you'll see here where our B-back actually comes through, and the rule is the safety, but we also teach don't pass up color. And so if there's another run support guy that falls in there, he's going to be picking up the first color that he sees, and you'll see how that's effective when we start running our motions. Okay, so again, our belly here, look at it from the end zone here. So our tackle does a better job. You can notice our play side tackle, in this case, see how he works to the inside. And what that does is it influences the defensive end. Now, here's what you have to be aware of when you start trying to do that is they try, and you could see his backside hand. He steps and he tries to catch with the backside hand and pull him in. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to step inside, work that inside half, and get his hand right through the chest plate of that defensive end. And what that does is it influences him, but it allows the tight end or the tackle to stay squared up. Okay, so he doesn't want to try and catch him and throw him into the gap. Let the tight end wash him down and get him into the right spot. Now at slot back, when we run belly here, our slot back ought to be right here on the Mike linebacker. Now, where we have issues is so many times they may see some space and they try to jump inside of him. If that guy is head up or if he's inside of you, no matter where he is, you've got to go outside. If you don't, then you're going to end up too flat and not be in a position to be able to handle that linebacker. So you can see how the slot back, he tries to jump inside. of the kick out man. He gets too flat, and now he's not in a great position to be able to block that outside shoulder of that linebacker. Okay, so again, just want you to be able to see how we are able to keep the defense balanced by using our veer in here. We're able to line up in this formation. They're not able to start overloading our tight end. If they do, then what's our answer? It's going to be motion away, run our veer, or run our midline. And so by staying in this formation, we're able to eliminate our backside pursuit. We're able to keep our safeties out because you still have two vertical threats right there. We're going to skip ahead here. Okay. Now, one issue that we have is we see a lot of 4-3 defense in our conference, and so they'll put a 7 technique on our tight end. How is it that you run veer or run belly to a 3 and a 7 look? Well, what we've started doing is making it a quick trap. And so you're going to see right here where we get a good run and we get a good block, but that's not going to be a big win for us most of the time when our tight end has the 7 technique and he has the man block him. Okay, and so we started getting some of this, and we had some DNs or 7 techniques that were staying in there, playing C-gap hard. We weren't able to win those battles. Everything was getting bounced out way too wide for us. And so what we've started doing is we've started outside releasing our tight end, and we're going to see this here. Okay, and so if anytime we see a 3 technique and a 7, we're going to take our tight end, and he's going to take a little drop step, almost like a pass set, and he's going to come right here trying to aim through the inside shoulder of this linebacker. Our slot back's going to come right off of his backside hip and still pick up that Mike backer. Now, if we get that, what we teach the fullback and tailback is rather than going inside leg of the tackle, now you're going to bump in, you're going to be outside leg of the guard. And so that's how we're able to adjust it, pretty simply and easily to maintain and be effective with our belly out of our I formation. So you can see it versus this 4-3 look. Our tight end is just outside releasing the 7 technique. And you want to try and stay inside shoulder of that outside backer here because you want to prevent him from folding inside. And you'll notice our tailback as he comes downhill, he takes his slide step, drops crossover, and he's downhill. Notice where his aiming point is. He's right there through the outside leg of where that guard was. And he's able to stay tight and just squeeze right inside of that 7 technique. We want that fullback. He ought to be really trying to work for this safety. But again, if he sees any color, then go ahead and clean it up. Phrase that we use all the time, get the play started. Just give us a chance to get the play started. And now as we get to the end of this part, I want you to see this really makes me feel happy most of the time when I watch the defenses. Look at how many people are trying to get lined up and how many people are moving around to get aligned. If you're doing that and you're trying to play the option, you got a great chance of getting people out of position. So you just notice how many people they took to move around to get lined up. We move one guy, and what do? They have to move their linebackers. They have to bump their linebackers out of gaps to account for now a reduced receiver, a slot back, and having any kind of power run game over here. So now we're able to motion across, and we're still able to run the belly without having that slot back. And one issue that a lot of teams have when it comes to running belly is, well, Coach, how is it that I get to that inside backer? How do I get this guy right here with my slot back? By going to the eye, you now create an angle for that fullback to be the guy that picks him up. So now we're able to have a good angle and still able to run our belly even though we may not necessarily have a slot back, and we're able to move them out of position. Coaching point here for the tight end, look how wide he is. See how he comes out there so wide? He's not in a position to pick up any kind of a fold player. So as he takes his drop step, really tell him, man, stay tight. Hug that hip of that 7 technique. Try and scrape your shoulder off of his hip. That'll put him inside out of any kind of fold player that you may get. Again, we're able to use our motion. We line up, we're right dot. Short yards, not great execution here, and I want to talk through some of that as we finish our belly portion. But just notice how we line up. We're in left dot or right dot formation. We're able to go low. Now look what it does. Look how many people they move over here. They got 2 linebackers and a safety over here. Should be a good formation to run belly in our situation of washing the 5, washing the 3, and getting our fullback up onto the next level. Okay, but this is, I want to talk through about where it is that we mess it up. Okay, couple of things here. One, we start pushing out. Watch the tailback. As he takes his width step and he gets downhill, look at how he continues out here too wide. Is he hugging the hip of that tight end? He's not. He's got to really be sure to chase that tight end's hip. And so there are times when we actually run belly out of the eye where our tailback will actually hit it where maybe almost A-gap was. I mean, he may hit it right up the crack of the guard because we're able to get such a good wash by that tight end, the gap moves and we're able to get downhill. So the tailback pushes it too wide and gets caught up in some of the trash. But then notice our guard here. See how flat he is? If you are flat down the line of scrimmage in this, then you're not going to be able to be effective. Okay, and so you could see him how he's not able to stay. He takes his drop step, but he keeps coming out here flat, and then look what happens. The defensive end jumps inside of him, doesn't he? Okay, and so really focus on that second step getting up in the line of scrimmage. We take a drop step, and I coach every day, man, get that second step up in the line of scrimmage so that you're able to get inside out of any kind of kick out. Okay, and if we were able to do that rather than getting flattened out and making it a log, I think we got a good play here. Okay, so really be sure, tailback, chase the hip of that tight end, guard, get up in the line of scrimmage on your belly steps to get your kick out. Because you got to know that number 2, that outside backer, is typically your quarterback player. He's squeezing it because he's got to be thinking about options so many times. Okay, so why is it that we run midline? Okay, midline, we don't get to run midline too much anymore because people know if we get a 3 technique, we're going to jump to it really fast. But want to be able to show you how we're able to run our midline out of the I formation and still be effective. Our midline rules are just like everybody else. Most of the time we're trying to get 2 slot backs in there and have a lead scheme. Okay, and we're going to watch this from the end zone here. Okay, we actually get 2-3 techniques. Man, run midline if you see that. Okay, but we get 2-3 techniques here, and this is just how we run it out of a reduced formation for us. A couple of key points for us on the play side slot is we want him to try and replace the hip of that 3 technique. If he'll take a slide step and get up in the line of scrimmage and replace the hip of that 3, that's going to put him in a great position most of the time to pick up that Mike backer if he tries to scrape over. When we have a slot back coming from backside, he becomes our kick-out guy. So we ought to have a little cross block anytime we run midline here between our 2 slot backs. This guy ought to be pinning. This guy ought to come across the formation and kicking out any kind of fold player that you may have. And the beauty of the I, as we see it next, is you're able to maintain those same rules. You're able to still get a kick-out guy and a pin guy on your midline. So you can see here how we're able to run our midline from the I. Couple of key points with that tailback is you want to make sure you step into the line of scrimmage. Right now, get into the line of scrimmage, 45 through B gap. Okay, quarterback, get off the line of scrimmage, get depth off the mesh, and then square your shoulder pads downhill. Okay, and we're going to see a couple issues that we had with our midline about timing as we go. And it's a lot easier to see from the end zone. We'll show it here. Okay, so as we run our midline from the I formation here, our slot back ought to be pinning this linebacker here, and 20, our tailback ought to be coming right through B gap, and he's got to stay inside out. And he's got to go 45 through that guard's hip to stay inside out of any kind of a fold player that you get. Okay, and so now you see how we're able to use our angles. You're able to see how we're able to use that slot back. And again, what we had issues with a lot of times was backside slot back coming across, and he tries to get downhill. Well, he's going flat or he's going at a sideways angle, and he wasn't able to get down into the hole quick enough to get the kick out. At times, our quarterbacks would beat that backside slot into the hole. Well, we're able to line up, no pre-snap motion to tell people where to go, and we're able to get downhill and ensure that our slot back gets into the line of scrimmage to make sure we get that kick out. Okay, so we see here where we're running it out of our tight end set. Be sure, I still want him to back up. He can maintain his normal alignment. Okay, but we run up, it's left dot, and we're just going to run midline. For us, it's 30. See it from here and coach it up. Okay, so now we get this look here. We really would like to have a out block here from our tackle. Sometimes, depending on his alignment, we'll double team this, or we'll just release this tight end out to the linebacker here. But we need this slot back to come in here for 38 to pin him. We need to have our guard Veer releasing for 22, and now our tailback is coming through for any cleanup of any kind of fold player here. And so it's not a great job by the tackle. Okay, he steps outside leverage. I'd rather him step with his inside foot first to take away inside, especially down here. It's a goal line situation. It was third, and I forget what it was, but we're in the red zone. This is a belly formation for us. Step inside foot first to take away inside move. Buddy does a good job of just recovering and getting the guy down. Slot back does a great job of coming and pinning the inside backer, and now you're able to get your eye tailback coming from an angle to get a good kick out. He's able to stay inside out and just help us out for any kind of kick out angle. Midline out of this formation was pretty good for us just because it created angles for us. Now, what's key too is make sure you have your fullback aligned, again, 2 yards behind the heels of the quarterback. I think we cheat everything too much here and doesn't allow us to be quite as effective as it can be. Okay, and so as we run our midline here, we're getting a 3 and a 7 again. And so what do we do to handle the 3 and the 7? We actually teach our tackle and tight end, double team the 7. Double team the 7, and I'm teaching the tight end to step inside. Try to get your helmet on the inside number of that 7 to take it over. The tackle, stepping, working through the inside shoulder of that 7, deliver him, now climb and get an extra fold player in there. If he plays it hard and you're not able to come off, that's fine, just keep doubling. We don't get it here, but we should have our slot back coming right inside of that double team, working up for that Mike linebacker. Our quarterback, one thing I don't like here, and it messes up your timing, watch how the quarterback doesn't get any depth off of his mesh. See how he just opens up his feet? He doesn't push off the line of scrimmage initially. The fullback's too tight, and so you're not able to get a mesh. And then as soon as the ball's pulled, see how he goes straight downhill? He doesn't get back off the mesh at all. By doing that, you don't allow your blocks to happen in front of you. And so really, again, tell those guys, be patient. Fullback, stay at 2 yards so you don't rush the mesh. Quarterback, push off the line of scrimmage on your midline. Clear the midline. But once he clears, push off that inside foot or that near foot, push off of it to get depth so that everything, really it becomes a timing deal. It becomes timing so that your slot back has time to get in there and pick up the linebacker. Okay, so midline now, sometimes it gets cluttered. You get a lot of bodies in there, but clutter's not always a bad thing because you miss people. But right here, we get a double team on our 7 technique. You can see our tackle. He's trying to come off. See our left tackle as he comes off. He's able to actually come off to the fold player, which is good. Gave us an extra hat to the ball there. Okay, slot back does a better job this time of coming inside. He actually picks up the Mike linebacker. Quarterback, again, still see how he comes down, and we're going to see in the next play how we do better at it. But see how this quarterback, he comes right off the mesh, okay, and doesn't allow the tailback to get there. Well, that's not the tailback's fault. If the quarterback will maintain his timing, the tailback has plenty of time to get into the line of scrimmage and make his block. So just get that depth off of that mesh so you're able to make the play. So you can see it here where it's a little bit better job of same formation, or still an I formation, still a very similar look. But look at how now we're able to get the tailback in there to make blocks for us and give us an extra hat. Okay, and the only thing that's changed is the quarterback took his depth step off the mesh and allowed everything to get down in front of him and for his blocks to happen. What I don't like is, notice how the tailback here, see how wide he comes? Okay, if you come out there too wide, you can't block the fold. And so really push those guys, hey, stay 45 downhill. Stay right through here, right through the play side leg of that guard so you can pick up anything. And then be sure with your tackle, he's got to do a better job of inside releasing and getting vertical and not getting washed down. So that is how we have used the I formation in our Veer offense, and how we've been able to use it to be effective running the triple option, the belly, and the midline. We've been able to use simple formations or simple tags to get into a lot of different formations and cause the defense to adjust in a lot of different ways. I hope that as you see the presentation, you see how we're able to manipulate the defense a good bit and put people in positions that we want them to be in to give us the advantage. Here you can see my contact information. If you have any questions, I'd love for you to contact me. I'd love to talk football with anybody, and you're able to hit me up anyway, and we can talk about triple, belly, midline, or any other questions you have. Again, thank you very much, Coach Alball, for having me here today. It's been a pleasure, and I hope this has helped you out.